Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange. Today I'm here to do a video about horror booktubers recommending some of their favorite books. I have heard from other people that one of the things that they enjoy about my channel is the fact that I read horror not just in October but all year round. And if you are looking for more booktubers to follow with similar reading tastes, this video should be a great resource. I am putting together a list of video clips that you're going to be watching in a second here. I'm putting these all in alphabetical order because frankly I can't pick and choose between all of these fantastic channels, and I just recommend checking out all the people. If you aren't yet subscribed to any of them, definitely do that, and I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah from The Book Was Better, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite scary books called The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. In this book, a retired lawyer named Arthur Kipps is telling us a story about something that happened to him as a young man, and he has never told anyone this story before because it has disturbed him so much. Many years ago, when he was a young lawyer, he was sent to a house called Eel Marsh to find the will of an old lady who had just died. He thought it was going to be a quick job, but when he got there, he found that the house is just filled with papers. He starts off by taking a room at a local tavern, and the townspeople tell him, do not go near that house. Definitely do not stay there overnight. But Arthur is my favorite kind of horror book character, a skeptic. So he packs up his stuff and moves right in. So a little about this house. It's called Eel Marsh because it sits in the middle of a marsh, and it's only accessible by this causeway, and the causeway is only passable at certain times of the day when the tide is low. So right away you get this feeling of being trapped, because literally for most of the day Arthur is trapped in this house. The hauntings start right away, and basically the rest of the book is Arthur being spooked by the woman in black. And it's a fairly short book, around 200 pages. I guess it's technically a novella, but because the story is short, it keeps up a really good pace and grabs you right from the beginning. It's very eerie and atmospheric, and the ending is great. The book has even been adapted into film and television a couple times, and there is even a stage play based on it. To me, that's a sign of a great story. But you know, the book is always better.
Hi, my name is Carla. I'm from Carla's Book Bits. I just want to say, first of all, a quick thank you to Rachel for including me in this video. I'm super honored to be among a lot of great people in here. And the book that I want to mention for this video today is more of a recent favorite of mine, actually. It's Stirring the Sheets by Chad Lutzke. This is the tale of a man who's grieving the death of his wife. And as the story starts, he's already an old man, and he's been grieving his wife for years now. He works as an embalmer, and more or less from day to day he lives his life in a quiet existence. He goes about his job quietly, doesn't bother anybody, and then one day he sees a body come into his funeral home, and he starts to freak out because this body looks exactly like what his wife looked like when she was young and still alive. He takes the body back to his house, he dresses it up in his wife's old wedding dress, and he kind of just acts out the night as it would happen if she were still alive. Really creepy stuff. Interestingly enough, there's no necrophilia in here, so don't worry about that. I was kind of like apprehensive about that too, but this more so focuses on the emotional side of what he misses about his marriage and about his wife. It's very, very well done, and it builds up to this cathartic climax. So I really recommend this if you want something that's well written, quick, very emotional, hits you in the feels. Such a good book.
Hi everyone, my name is Carol from the channel Joanie Reads, and my recommendation is a little on the horror light side and is also a classic. That would be Something Wicked This Way Comes by Bradbury. If you've seen my channel before, you know that one of my favorite themes or tropes in books is when a young child or a group of kids have to overcome some kind of evil or dark forces. In this novel, we're following two young boys, Jim and Will. They live in a small town in Illinois, and one October night, a carnival comes to town. The carnival promises to grant wishes and make dreams come true and allow people to relive or regain their youth. Other themes or topics in this book is the relationship between a father and a son, or a parent and a child, as well as being a child but also being on the cusp of adulthood and making that change and making the choices that go along with becoming an adult. Bradbury is obviously a well-known classic author. Most of us probably had to read something by him in school. His writing in this is absolutely beautiful. The prose about the weather and the town and the time of year are absolutely wonderful. And not only does this fit this time of year because of the horror supernatural elements, but it just screams fall and it screams nostalgia, and it is a book that I've read multiple times in my life and will continue to go back to. There is a early 1980s movie adaptation, pretty dated, but if you enjoy the novel, I would highly recommend checking that out as well.
Hi, I'm Jason White from Jason's Weird Reads. Thank you to Rachel for inviting me along to talk about one of my favorite horror books, and today I'm going to be talking about Teatro, Grottesco by Thomas Ligotti. This is a collection of short stories told in Thomas Ligotti's dreary and dark and disturbing to the soul type stories. This book is actually responsible for me getting into more modern weird fiction, and I love Thomas Ligotti, and I haven't read all of his works yet, but this one was the first for me, and it just absolutely blew me away. The ideas in this book are just absolutely insane, and it holds some of my favorites. I'm going to show you the table of contents here. Split up into 3 parts to derangements, deformations, and the damaged and the diseased. So you sort of get an idea exactly what we're dealing with here. And it holds some of my favorite stories, as I said, like the town manager, our temporary supervisor, and the bungalow house. Now, it's been a while since I've read this, and so the stories aren't exactly clear in my mind, but I'm definitely going to be giving this a reread. If you're curious at all about weird fiction, I think, honestly, this is a good place to start, because it's what got me into more modern weird fiction, because before this, all I was reading was H.P. Lovecraft and the like. And so if you're curious at all, you should start here with Teatro, Grottesco by Thomas Ligotti. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, I'm Joanie from Joanie Reads, and I want to tell you guys about Security by Gina Wohlsdorf. Now, this is a tense slasher thriller that takes place in the Manderley Resort one night. It's a high-class hotel that's set to open very soon, and it boasts extraordinary security for its upper-class guests that it's supposed to have. So our main character is Tessa, a young woman who had an extremely rough upbringing in childhood, but is now an extremely powerful professional, and she is in charge of this hotel, of getting it up and running and ready to go. So none of the workers know on the night this book takes place that there is a killer in their midst who has no intention of letting anybody leave alive. I love this book for so many reasons. It has one of my absolute favorite settings, that like sprawling, creepy, maze-like empty hotel with all of the people running around trying to escape this crazy killer who's after them. The voyeuristic, creepy feeling of being behind the camera lens with the killer watching these people. Some crazy, crazy slasher level deaths that are just almost over the top, but so much fun if you like a slasher. Some wonderful character work with characters that I loved and rooted for and just got behind so much, and also some characters that I kind of was not very sorry to see die, but like in the best fun possible way. And it even had a fun little relationship between Tessa and this childhood friend who kind of shows up out of the blue and gets into the mix. This is a really fun, quick read if you're somebody who likes a good slasher, who likes that tense, fast-paced kind of an experience, but doesn't want to spend forever trying to slog through a bunch. This does have a great plot to it, but it is extremely short and extremely quick and extremely compelling to read, and I highly recommend it.
Hi friends, Cami from Cami's Corner. I just got done doing a Nightworms challenge, so that is why I look the way that I do, but this look was actually inspired by a horror novel. The new poetry collection from Raw Dog Screaming Press, written by Stephanie Witovich, and that is The Apocalyptic Mannequin. So, how'd I do? Rachel, however, has asked me to be a contributor as a horror booktuber to talk about one of my favorite horror novels. Now, trying to choose my favorite out of the endless stack of TBR that I have, it was quite challenging. But one of the things that I decided to focus on is making sure that when discussing horror, you have to be very careful just even saying the term. Oftentimes you say the word horror and immediately people get scared. Not necessarily because of the word itself, but because oftentimes when you say horror, people immediately think of cinema. And please do not compare horror cinema to horror books. Two completely different worlds, oranges to apples. Maybe rotten ones, but nonetheless very different. So when talking about horror or trying to get people interested in reading it, it's very important that you keep it very simple going in. There are over 30 subgenres of horror to date. So I think I've picked a pretty safe one that gave me literal chills, and that is a gothic horror. And this is written by Susan Hill. It is The Woman in Black. Now there is a ton of various covers. Again, a gothic horror set in London, foggy, spooky, chilly, and honestly, this ending packs a punch. So if you want to read horror but you're afraid of the types of horror that are out there, talk to me about genres. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. But start here. The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. Have fun and happy haunts.
Hey y'all, my name is Samantha Leanne. I talk about books, I talk about horror, I talk about Stephen King, cats, coffee, cuss words, it's kind of my thing. But today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite horror books, and that is The Devil Crept In by Anya Alborn. First of all, I really appreciate female written horror, which is what this is. This is a story that follows a young boy who is best friends with one of his cousins who goes missing. And all of a sudden his cousin shows back up, but he is not the same. Something is very, very wrong. Well, they live around these woods and they've always been told not to go in the woods because something is in the woods. You know, there have been missing children and things like that, but nobody really talks about it. But after Dude disappears and comes back, people start talking about it, and Stevie, his best friend, starts to investigate and go looking for what might have happened to his cousin. The thing that I love the most about this book is the atmosphere that Alborn creates. I think that that's extremely important when you're writing a horror novel. It has a really creep factor to it. Really dark, middle of the woods, like what's gonna happen, what is just lurking beyond the tree line, that kind of vibe, and I really appreciated it. This is a story that I read like 2 years ago and I still think about it all the time. The way that she writes gave me these crystal clear visuals, and I honestly hope that they never make a movie out of this because I always want it to, I would want it to be what I always envisioned in my mind. Atmosphere is A+. There are a couple things about it that I didn't like love, but if you're looking for something to read that's really creepy, really atmospheric, you know, really draws you in, this is definitely a book that I would recommend you read.
Hey everyone, my name is Samantha and my channel is Missy May's Reading Nook. The book that I want to share with all of you is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This book is the epitomal haunted house book, which is my weak point when it comes to horror. This book is basically a documented, researched work by this guy named Zampano. Zampano is dead at the very beginning of the book. Johnny comes across this work with a note attached to the book from Zampano. Zampano says, hey, you can publish this, just make sure my name is on it. Johnny's like, okay, sure. Gets it published. As he's going through it though, some weird stuff is happening to his memory and his thought process. The book that Zampano writes, that is written here, is based off of a film predominantly called The Davidson Record. This is a film that just follows a family that recently moves into a home, but they find that the home is actually bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. But it's not just bigger on the inside. The kids go wandering around in the house and they're finding that there's a lot more to the house than what there seems to be. This book made me afraid of my own home and it has left a lasting impression on my memory even though I read this years ago. I'm definitely going to be reading it again and hopefully you'll be reading it too. If you're into haunted houses, this is the book for you.
Hi everyone, it's me Coral from Pretty in Paper Cuts, and today I'd like to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite horror books, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Okay, so at its core, this is a great book about a friendship between two teenage girls set in the 80s. But the kicker is, one of them gets possessed by a demon, and the other one is seemingly the only one who seems to care or even notice. It's a rare female coming-of-age story, perfect for horror beginners and longtime lovers of the genre. It balances spookiness and despair with pop culture and a whole lot of heart. It is a book that kind of made me tear up at the end even. It was just really heartfelt. If you haven't already picked this up, I can't recommend it enough. It is the perfect Halloween read. That's all I have for you today though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!
Hey guys, this is Stacy from Stacy Stories. Thanks to Rachel for involving me in this project. The horror book that I want to recommend to you guys is The Amityville Horror, a true story by Jay Anson. This book is based off of the Lutz family's experiences while living in a demonically possessed house. They bought this house for an incredibly cheap price. It was their dream home, and they were driven away from their house 28 days later after being tormented by the evil spirits there. They got this house for so cheap because 1 year earlier, Ronald DeFeo had murdered his entire family in the house. This book is very intense. It is one of only 3 books that have ever scared me in my life. So that's why I definitely want to recommend this to horror fans, because this one was definitely nerve-wracking and one I had to read during the day with the lights on. If you read this book, I hope you love it as much as I do. Thanks again to Rachel, and have a happy Halloween.
So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and share it around online. And if you aren't subscribed to any of the people you just watched, please click into the description box below. I'm going to have not only the links to the books, but the BookTube channels themselves. So you can find all of their channels, check them out, and hopefully find some new faces to follow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, I have done this once before with a different group of booktubers, so I will leave a link to that at the end, and let me know if you would like me to do videos like this more often, because it's definitely fun to collaborate with some of my favorite online people. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.